So back in March, I made a video where I talked about how to make money from raising chickens. The only issue was that video kind of sucked, and the video got 270 views, so thank you a lot. So today I'm going to be remaking that video, and better yet, explaining the terms in a much easier to understand manner. So strap in, and don't forget to hit the like button. Also, if we reach 3,300 subscribers before the end of the week, I will literally do 50 sit-ups. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Selling baby chickens is a pretty demanding task, but definitely not the hardest way you can make money from chickens. You see, the market for baby chickens is pretty high nowadays, mainly because people want to scratch things like eggs off their shopping list. So selling baby chickens is a pretty nice way to make some small income from raising chickens. Now, if you are going to sell baby chickens, make sure you have enough in stock and you know which breed you're working with. Because if you don't know which breed you're working with, then it may lead to your potential buyers with some questions. Also, make sure that you know how you're going to be selling your chickens. If you're going to be selling straight run chickens, then you will need to disclose this information to the potential buyer. It's also important to know how much money the chickens will likely be worth. Usually if a rooster costs $6.25, then the hen will likely cost $8.25, and the straight run chickens will cost around $5.50, and so on. Selling chickens that are told apart is going to attract the most buyers, mainly because people would like to know if they are getting a hen or a rooster. If you would like to know more about that, then don't forget to click the card in the corner of the screen. Before we move on, I think it's important to note that some people will be likely buying chickens the most in the months of January through May, and again in July through September. Now, we are not talking about selling meat chickens. We'll get into that a bit later in this video, but rather, we're talking about selling broilers. Now, what exactly is a broiler, I hear you asking? Well, in simple terms, it means a chicken that is meant to be cooked or grilled. The market is very similar to selling baby chickens, except you're selling chickens with a much shorter lifespan. On average, a layer hen will live anywhere from 4 to 9 years, whilst a broiler will live a much shorter life, usually only a total of 8 to 12 weeks, and some breeds will last even shorter. Now, I would like to mention that the chickens that produce eggs are a bit different than the ones that they'll be selling people, and due to the short lifespan, you'll actually have to incubate the eggs yourself. And unlike egg layer chickens, they don't need to be told apart, and the reason is because they don't usually live long enough to begin clucking or crowing. Similar to egg layer chickens, people want this chicken at certain times of the year, especially in the late winter months, and again in the midsummer months. Now, let's move on to a different way you can make money from chicken. Now, chicken coops are basically real estate for chickens. The only difference is that chickens don't need to drop $500,000 for a mediocre suburban home. Now, if you're going to resell chicken coops, I'd recommend adding something to them because the ones that you buy at Tractor Supply aren't usually as durable as the ones that people build, especially if they have a lower price tag than the ones that people sell on their farms. Make sure that if you're building one, that the chicken coop ticks off all the boxes that you want to tick off. In general, chicken coops cost $1,200 to $1,800 to build. So try to resell them for a higher price to get the most out of them. If you'd like some inspiration, don't forget to check out the video linked above for some inspiration for chicken coops. Now let's move on to the next one. Now, chicken feathers aren't really that useful by themselves. In fact, assuming that the price of one feather is 3/10,000ths of a cent, then the entire chicken is worth only $2.40. So not profitable at all. But you can design accessories using chicken feathers that could potentially be profitable in the long run. Maybe something like a dream catcher or something along those lines. So if you don't know what a pullet is, let me inform you. A pullet is a hen that is actively laying eggs that is under a year old. Now, some people will likely like to skip the process of raising baby chickens, especially since they stir up a ton of dust and they may increase your electricity bill due to the heat lamp. With these chickens, you can easily skip that phase and go right to them laying eggs. I think it's like cutting off filler in a video. Not everything I record in my videos is actually going to make it into the final cut, so basically you're removing some filler and skipping right to the good part of them laying eggs. Now, these guys are usually a bit more pricey than the baby chickens, which is why some people prefer to go with buying baby chickens. Me personally, I've only bought baby chickens except for the time one of my friends gave me his chicken flock, as he was losing interest in chickens. But those chickens were already over a year old, so they weren't pullets. Also, I think it's nice to know that that the eggs your pullets will lay you are not full-sized eggs. So if you have 2 eggs in the morning, then you might want to increase it to 3 or 4 eggs to actually match the size of a normal egg. Now, fully grown hens are hens that are over a year old, which means that they are not only laying full-sized eggs now, but they also have gone through their first major molt. The only issue is that you are just selling hens that could give you more eggs, but as long as it's profitable, I guess. Also, these guys are more expensive than pullets, and it's by a lot. So yes, they can be very profitable, but more people likely just stick to buying pullets, and even more would likely stick to buying baby chickens, as they're by far the cheapest one here. You can't just get away with selling chickens over 2 years old, as by that point they're well past their prime and you're just giving away overpriced freeloaders at that point. So there is a limitation as to how old you can sell your chickens, but rules are meant to be broken. So I guess you see what happens if you try to sell 4-year-old chickens. Now, selling fertilized eggs is a bit more tricky than you may expect. When you're selling baby chickens, the amount of communication that you need to have with the potential buyer is generally little. But for this, you may want to actually get into contact with the person who is wishing to buy these eggs and set up a time to meet with them to buy the eggs. The person that wants to buy the eggs also needs to make sure that at home they either have a broody chicken who's willing to hatch out these eggs, or an incubator, which on average costs $80 to $120, but you can get a higher quality incubator that's over $200 if they want to. An incubator will keep the eggs nice and warm with the temperature generally above 92 degrees Fahrenheit, and some of them will turn the eggs, kind of like how a broody chicken will turn the eggs while sitting on them. Now, when the time comes for meat chickens, you'll need to harvest them, because if you don't, then they will likely develop heart conditions, and this could likely give them only a week or two at most to live after this. You need to know when they're ready for harvesting, and that's when chickens aren't moving around at all and have very fat legs. Now, you can either look up how to butcher chickens, or if you don't want to do that, then you can hire someone to do it for you. Now, if you are going to look up how to butcher meat chickens, then viewer discretion is advised, as they could potentially be a bit graphic. But don't worry, it's not painful and it's very humane. Afterwards, it's best to get approval from the right people to actually be able to sell chicken meat, as there are certain regulations to be met for selling chicken meat. I know very little about this because of the fact that we don't sell meat chickens, but it will likely be very profitable as we do expand our farm, and we will likely be doing this as well in the near future. I hope you got something out of this video, and if you did, then don't forget to click the like button. Anyways, if you're curious about what a routine for chickens looks like, well, I have you covered in the video on the screen. Be sure to click it, and I'll see you there. Bye.